I hate how the end of the year always gives me so much pressure around time. And we're given that all the time from media, family, peers, advertising, like all these ways in which we are running out of time, we are losing time, we're not making the most of our time. You have to make the most of your time in terms of productivity, efficiency, and all of these things. But it becomes heightened at the end of the year, especially post Thanksgiving, and you're just like, holy shit, I have one more month left in this year. What have I done with my life? And it prompts a lot of this self-reflection, which is not a bad thing, but it often is connected to the sense of urgency of we are running out, when it is no different than February or April or August or October. And it reminds me of how important our relationship with time is, because all of it is a construct, right? Time passes, not to say that that's a construct, but the way in which we have structured it is the notion of years, the notion of calendars, the notion of even like a clock, right? And how we count our hours in the day. I looked at the international, I forgot what it's called, but anyway, like a map of all the time zones across the countries. And it's just so funny to look at some of it because it's just so arbitrary. It's like these lines that have like cut this way. And it certainly helps to a degree to have most countries or most land within a certain kind of longitude be of the same time zone. But then you have ones that are like, you know, you just arbitrarily move one this way a little bit and then it's a different time zone or daylight savings time. And so it just reminds me of just how much of this is something we've constructed. And we all know the feeling of when we go on vacation, when we go somewhere else, especially when we say like, you know, the pace of life is slower, that we have a different relationship with time. You lose track of days. You forget what date it is. Tuesday becomes Thursday. And that is available to us every day, except of course it's easier when you go to a place where the environment and the culture and the people also operate in that way. And when they do, like, you realize, often most people realize like how nice it is to not be beholden to these clocks and these calendars and these schedules. And it's a muscle and a skill for us to build no matter where we are, especially if we live in busier places. Like I live in New York City most of the time. I'm in Taipei visiting family for the holidays, and it can have an energy of its own that can just take you in its current, like a river would. If you didn't try to swim against it or move differently, it'll just take you somewhere. And it's so critical that for every single one of us, we understand the relationship we want to have with time, so that when we are starting to feel the pressure externally, whether it's from the noise of the media that we're receiving, or whether it's from loved ones and parents being like, you haven't done this with your life. When are you going to do this? Or even peers just being around them and starting to feel the pressure of their accomplishments or their questions about our lives, or seeing things that we want for ourselves and covet. And we really need to question why we want that and the pressure we start to feel about why we haven't gotten that yet. Like all of those things come down to us understanding not only what we want for ourselves, but also how we feel about the attainment and the achievement of those things. Because when it's just me, like I'm totally fine with taking the time that I want to take to accomplish what I need to accomplish. Like there's no rush on my when it's just me independently, when I can kind of exist in my own little environmental vacuum that I can create. Because the only thing that I'm being judged by is my own sense of time and my own sense of success. And success to me on a regular basis means connecting with people in a thoughtful way. And it means kind of feeling joy and feeling peace in my everyday. And when I have that, then I don't feel like there's been that much, or there's that much more I need. There are things I want to accomplish in my life, which I realize will take time over weeks, months, years. But how I accomplish that and when that happens in terms of my own sense of environment, it doesn't really matter. I don't have an obsession with legacy and leaving behind some history. I don't have an obsession with making a name for myself so that I'm like remembered. It's just important to me that I am a good person and that I treat people kindly, and that when people interact with me, they get some value, and that I live my purpose and my mission. But when I'm in a place like New York, or when I'm around people of a certain seeming like, not status, but a certain level of accomplishment, if they're known to me, I feel the pressure. I'm like, oh, but they've done this or they have this. And I need to check myself regularly against, hold up, like, what is my baseline? What do I care about? What is the timeline that works for me? What are the goals that I want to accomplish? What is meaningful to me? What makes a good life to me? Like, I need to run through all of those things again to make sure that I'm not sucked into someone else's relationship with time or money or success or status. Because it's so easy for us to be susceptible to that, every single one of us. Maybe there's like, this like fully enlightened monk or a handful of people on the planet who aren't affected by that, but we're all human. We're social creatures. We're affected by our environment. I don't think it's so much that you get to a point where you don't care about time. It's that you understand the relationship you want to have with it. You understand how you want to move through this world. You understand the pace at which you want to live your life. And there might be times where urgency is called for. There might be times where rushing for something is needed. But that isn't every day. And that isn't every moment. And that shouldn't be dictated by something as arbitrary as the calendar. And some people might laugh that I'm calling the calendar arbitrary, but it is in the grand scheme of life. It was determined by humans. We give this sense of importance to the month of December because it's a quote, quote, it's not the quote, quote, it is the last month of the calendar. But in the scheme of time, it's just another day. It's just another month, right? It's just another time of year. It's just another winter. It has no value beyond what value we give it. And we've given it so much value. And especially we allow, advertising and businesses, of course, follow this calendar. We are bombarded with messages for the end of the year of like, get the sale before this price goes away. You've only got 2 weeks left for the end of the year. What do you accomplish for the rest of the year? And then people who want to sell us shit are starting to advertise like, get ready for the new year, as if there's a right way to get ready for the new year or be prepared. Right? There's a start of the year, the way to start off the next year right, start off January right, whether it's for your body and your health, whether it's for your beauty and your skincare, whether it's for your money and your wealth management, whether it's for your career and your business. There's all these ways about how to do things right. And I understand that everybody is trying to capitalize on this time because we've allowed this time of year to affect us in this way. But freedom, the thing that all of us want, and we might want it in different capacities, whether financial or time, but all of us want this notion of freedom. No matter if you're chasing money or beauty or time or location freedom, all of it comes down to your understanding of the world, your relationship with your life in this world. And time is a major dictator of that. And so I say this for me, sorry, I just burped. I say this for me as much as anyone else that this could be valuable for, is being able to ground myself back in an understanding of what is meaningful to me. And being able to feel like my day was meaningful, like my connections were valuable, that the way that I related and engaged with people was present and heartfelt. Me feeling like I'm kind of living true to my purpose, that I'm contributing a little bit to my mission every day is solid. Like, I'd die happy tomorrow. And I'm not a millionaire. I'm not some crazy, influential, accomplished person. I'm just the person who loves their life. And beyond that, I need to like ground myself, not beyond that, I need to ground myself in that when I'm starting to feel that external pressure, when I'm feeling the pull to want what others have, to be swayed by advertising and marketing and media and everything on socials telling me that I need more of something or I'm not enough as I am. Because that's what most marketing and businesses are selling us, right? It's moving into a state that is not where we are. And if that's a state we really desire, then yeah, that business or service makes sense. But we're also just so susceptible to the larger messages that sit around us that are constantly giving us some sense of lack, right? That not only we are not enough, we don't have enough, you don't make enough, you're not doing enough, you don't look good enough, you're not tall enough, you're not strong enough, you're not every kind of enough. That's what everyone sells, right? The gap between where you are and where either you think you want to be or you know you want to be. And I say you think you want to be because so often we're sold on ideas of what sounds good and what feels like something we should want. But ultimately, when we really dig deep into what we want, it's not true to what we want. In the same way that people chase money and they still feel empty because they didn't really understand what they wanted beyond having a certain financial security. I was I was driving a car up these really narrow mountain roads just last week, or actually this week, just a few days ago. My sense of time is a little off. And I was with my mom and my aunt, and there are these super curvy, hairpin mountain turns, steep grades into this beautiful mountain region that we were driving. And there's no shoulder. And huge, like big tourist buses, or public buses, taking the same turns. And there was this guy who looked like he was in his 50s, 60s, maybe even 70s. It's hard to tell. In his kind of like fall heavy winter coat and had bags hanging off his bicycle. It's not an e-bike, not motorized, just this bicycle. And he just, and I cycle. And so I was just watching his like pacing and it was just steady. He was just kind of taking really steady pedals, and cars were, needing to swerve around him or wait until they could. And he just took his time. He was on his own schedule, on his own clock, riding at a pace that made sense for him. He wasn't wearing a helmet. He wasn't affecting anyone else, but he was following the rules of the road. And there wasn't a single other bicycle that I saw, because it's dangerous. That we stopped and stopped at a site, took some pictures. And so he passed us. And then I kind of caught up to him a little while later. And I was like, man, so I got to observe, I shared that only because I got to observe him a few times at a few different intervals. And then we went up the mountain past him, stopped for lunch, and then eventually made our way back down. And then he was in front of us again. So he must have like ran his errand and was heading back down to wherever he was going. And he was the same the entire time. I saw him 3 times. He was the same every time. And it was so beautiful to see. Like, it gave me so much joy and peace to see that, because it didn't matter the terrain, the danger on the roads, the narrowness of the road that we were on, the lack of shoulder, the buses that were whirring, like trucks and buses that were going by him, the cars that were waiting behind him, that he could just stays steady in his place and time, in the activity that he was doing, and stay focused. And it was beautiful. It was just such a peaceful thing to watch. And that's what I wish for myself. And I probably was thinking about it more because in that moment I was in the car with my mom and my aunt. My mom is a super anxious, easily stressed person, and driving those kinds of roads, she is just on level 10 of anxiety. And I was just trying to find my Zen place, my like calm, peaceful place of like, doesn't matter what she's saying, doesn't matter what's coming in, I can maintain this like calm peace and drive safely, because when someone's nonstop in your ear about every possible warning they could give you, it is stressful as fuck. And so this might be why this man on this bicycle was so compelling to me, but it probably would have been regardless, because I think about this often of how we can maintain our sense of calm and peace and serenity and not let external influences and forces push us into a place we don't want to be, whether that's rushed and stressed and anxious, or whether it's starting to feel our own lack and not enoughness and our desire for more. It could be so many things that we're pushed into, but in general, it's how do we protect ourselves from the ways in which the external world wants to push us, right? This current that they want to take us in. How do we stay rooted in what matters to us and what is the right pace for us and the right path for us? Now I started this mainly around time, and time becomes a really important factor in all of our lives. It's a grounding factor. It's how we understand our days and our sense of identity, age, where we are in life. But it's true of so many things because they're all external forces. Time is an external force. The environment that we're in is an external force. Culture is an external force. Our peers, our relationships, people are an external force. And so how do we engage with all of it in a way that makes sense for us? And how do we understand our own desires and needs and relationship with time enough so that we can always ground ourselves back? So that when we're hearing that voice in our ear, whether it's our mom, in my case, my mom, it was my mom this time, or, I don't know, like the people that we compare ourselves to, how do we get so clear on how we want to relate with this all-important thing of time, so that when we're feeling that rush and we're feeling that pressure, we have something to come back to. And I've been feeling it a lot as like a business owner, with all the like year-end pushes and people like gearing up for January, like product launches and sales. And it's just like, I'm so behind. And I need to be like, no, they're on their timeline. They're doing what they think is best for them. I need to do what's best for me. And I need to shut all that shit down, shut all the noise down, and focus. And that's partly why I was like, okay, I just need to focus and like make this video and ground myself in the message that's all important to me, that roots me back in myself and not anyone else. And so if you're struggling, if you've been feeling that pressure, that challenge of a year ending and a new year beginning and not doing enough this year, I need to start off right next year. If that pressure helps you, then by all means. But if that pressure is not useful to you and only gets in the way, then I'm thinking of you. And I hope that you take the time to understand how you want to relate to time, how you want to move through this world, what matters in your day-to-day, so that you can bring yourself back to that and reset your pace so that it's calming and peaceful and serene and true to you.